Well, welcome those of you at mochurch.tv. And for those of you here, grab a paperback Bible, grab a paperback Bible, pass them down to each other. Turn to 1 Corinthians 13, page 932. Feel free to have one of those Bibles. If you don't have one, you can understand. So when I was a junior in high school, I was a brand new Christian and was just starting to check out a couple of churches. And I was going to one church, kind of frequently. But I had this friend who was in high school, went to my high school. He's a buddy of mine. His name was Ruben. He was a Mexican dude who lived across the street. And he was going to church at a place that was different than me. And he invited me to come to like this youth event they were having in the fall that was basically like a hayride. And I was like, oh yeah, heck yeah, I'm all about that. So I went with him to the church building, and then we got in this big school bus. There might have even been a couple of school buses. This was a huge church. And we got a couple of school buses full of students, and we headed just outside of the city for this big youth event of, going on hay rides. It was like a middle school and high school thing. And so we got there and we're hanging out like around this campfire, and me and Ruben started talking to a couple of girls from this church that I hadn't met. I'd been there a couple times, but I hadn't met these girls. And so we started talking, and one of the girls' names was Kendra. Now, I know it sounds like Kendra, but no. Her name was Kendra with an I. Well, I was like, whoa, that's something cool right there. I bet she even dotted it with a heart. And I was like, dang, this girl is gorgeous. And she seemed like she was kind of into me. She was like talking to me a whole bunch. I was like, what? Okay, all right. So she's kind of sitting near me during campfire. She's all in. She's laughing at my jokes, like all of them. And I was like, okay, well, that's normal. I mean, people should laugh at my jokes, but she seems like she's all about me. She was wearing like the clothes that the popular girls at my school wore, the ones that I don't shop in that section, not just the girl section, but that brand. Okay, I was like, man, she's like, this girl seems like she's like a rich kid who's laughing at my jokes, and she's this blonde girl who's just gorgeous. I was like, what in the world? So we get on the hayride, and she sits next to me on the hayride, and I'm like, what is going on, man? So she rides the hayride, laughing at all my jokes, just talking like fully into me now. I'm like, what is going on, man? I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm killing it tonight. I must have wore deodorant or something. Like, what is going on? And so we get back, and after hanging out a whole bunch, we get on the bus ride to go back to the church building. And you know how school bus seats are. They're basically for two people in each seat. And she sits down right next to me. And I was like, what in the world? And she just totally engrossed in me and reaches over during the ride and holds my hand. I was like, and so she starts holding hands with me. And it was like one of those moments where I looked over and I'm like, how is this girl interested in me? Like, this was the first time in a string of a couple more times that would come where I ended up with a girl who's way out of my league, okay? Now, I was like, what is happening? I just don't get it. We got to the end of the bus ride, got back to the church building, and she wrote down her name with an I, with the heart dotted, okay? And she wrote it down, and I got the digits. She wrote down her number, and she had an 867 prefix, which was like, only like the rich kids live in that part to get the 867 prefix on their phone number in Toledo at 419-867. Wow, what in the world? And so me and Kendra start talking on the phone, talking every night, and me and Kendra end up dating. Now, Kendra was a freshman, I was a junior, and I was like, man, I hate that there's a little bit of an age difference here, but she's incredible. Like, she's so awesome. She's definitely way out of my league, so I can get past that. She eventually, I would talk to her on the phone, and then we'd see each other typically at church stuff. And she gave me her school picture once, okay? So I got her a little school picture. I put that in my wallet. So people are like, you dating anybody? I'm like, heck yes, I'm dating somebody. What are you talking about? I'm dating somebody. Padow, And they'd be like, shut up. It looked like Napoleon Dynamite. Like the picture came with the wallet. Like, yeah, this is pretty much my girlfriend. She's coming to the dance with me. If she can get here from another state, that's not your girlfriend, Napoleon. Yes, it is. Gosh, And so I knew it looked like that. And people were like, that's not your girlfriend. I'm like, I know. I'm not even going to try to convince you. I'm dating her, and I don't know why she's dating me. And so I remember a guy in the back row of a class once who was just fully like, that's bull. That's not your girlfriend. I was like, I'm telling you, dude. She goes to Springfield High School. She's like, just different. It's a different school. Whatever. That's the lie dumb kids make up. Like, whatever. That's cool. I'm just going to go on dating my girlfriend, and you can talk all the trash you want, So it's like, man, she's so awesome. So we're talking every night. We see each other at church. And eventually, after things were going really well, my best friend Jason Petz came to visit me in Toledo. We had grown up some outside of Toledo where my grandparents lived, but he moved even further away to Defiance, Ohio. And so he came to Toledo, and I hadn't been seeing him as much lately, and he brought a friend of his named Jeff. I knew Jeff, but they were closer than me and Jeff were. I liked him, but he just came along with pets. So they came into the city, and we're hanging out at the McDonald's where I worked at in high school. This is letting you into a lot of my story right here. And so I just don't get it twisted. I was just flipping burgers or something. I was a shift supervisor, all right? So, yep, I could work the cashier, I could work the drive-thru, I could work whatever I wanted to work at McDonald's. And so we're hanging out at McDonald's eating half-free food, and all of a sudden I say to Pets, hey, I've been dating a girl for a few months, and I'd love for you to meet. Would you like to go? We probably have to go across town to where she lives, the nice part of town, but I would love to introduce her, best friend, my girlfriend. He's like, yeah, I'd love to meet her. And so I said, okay, she's got a basketball game tonight. She's a basketball player. So she's got a basketball game. I've never been to one of her games, but we could go across town, see her game, totally surprise her, not let her know that I'm coming, see her game, and you guys could meet each other. Sounds good. So we all get in the car. We head across town to the nice side of town. We go over to Springfield. We get into the 867 prefix area. We walk into Springfield High School, and we pay each of us for our tickets to go into the game. And we walk in, and it's during the freshman girls game. And so we walk in, we get sitting down in the bleachers, we're sitting here and looking around. I don't see Kendra playing on the court anywhere. I'm like, I don't see her anywhere. Maybe she's sitting on the bench or whatever. I don't see her on the bench. I'm like, man, I don't know where she's at. And so I was like, I'll be back in a couple seconds, fellas. I walked around outside real quick, just like, we got here a few minutes late. Has she hurt herself? Has she got on crutches out here somewhere? So I'm looking around, I don't see her anywhere. And so I started thinking, maybe I've underestimated Kendra's basketball skills. Like maybe she's a freshman who's playing on the JV team. Or maybe she's playing varsity. Like we'd have to stick around a little longer to see those games. But whatever. So I come back in, I sit in the bleachers. Man, guys, I don't know where she's at. Finally, I muster up the confidence to ask another student from the high school there. I say, hey, sorry to interrupt, but do you know Kendra Weir? Oh, yeah. This girl says, I totally know Kendra Weir. Oh, yeah, I love Kendra. I was like, oh, good, okay, cool. Do you know, does she play ball? Oh, yeah, she totally plays basketball. Like, oh, good, okay. Because I'm here, and I got some friends, I'm surprising her, showing up, but she doesn't know we're coming, and I have no idea where she's at. I can't find her. And this high school girl says to me, well, she wouldn't be here. And I said, well, why wouldn't she be here? Kendra wouldn't be here. She would be over at the middle school. And I said, what? She said, yeah, she'd be playing over on the 8th grade team. What? So this all goes down right in front of my best friend and this other guy we know, Jeff, happens right there. And I'm like, how in the world? How could this happen? What in the world? I met her at this youth group event that was for middle schoolers and high schoolers. Oh my gosh. And so this all happened. Finally, this girl I'm talking to looks at me and she says, who are you? I'm a little reluctant to answer that question right now. And so finally I say, my name's Dan. I'm her boyfriend. And she says to me, you can't be her boyfriend. She's been dating Todd Fackler for 6 months. What? It just got worse. And I was like, are you kidding me? And as this all sunk in, I was like, she's in 8th grade? What in the world? She doesn't look like she's in 8th grade. She's in 8th grade. And I started thinking, it's a good thing I never went to her house and we snuck out without her parents knowing. There would have been a warrant out for my arrest and an Amber Alert. Oh my gosh. So me and Kendra had a really awkward conversation that night on the phone. I didn't go over to the middle school to see her game. So I went home, we talked on the phone, and had a really awkward conversation. Then I tracked down the number of a certain Todd Fackler. Todd Fackler and I talked twice that week. That was more than me and Kendra talked. We talked twice that week. And I just called him. I was like, dude, I think you need to know that I'm the other dude. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I'm Kendra's boyfriend also. But listen, little punk, I'm a junior in high school. change your diaper, you little punk. And so we have this conversation, and I'm just trying to hip him to the fact that he's being played too. Like, my girlfriend was a player, and so was Todd Fackler's, okay? And so one more time, Kendra and I met up on Sunday morning at the church, and we sat in the back row. Like I said, big church, tons of people there. Sat way in the back row so we could have that closure conversation, face to face, you know. So I sat down, and she had brought this friend who I didn't know. I'd never met her before. She was like this ornery girl that was sitting on the other side of her. And me and Kendra are sitting here next to each other, and I'm talking through closed teeth. Like when you're a parent, you're frustrated with your kid. I can't believe what you said. You said you're eighth grade. You're in eighth grade. And so we're just talking or whatever. I'm trying to be calm, be nice. And she's trying to be like, but I really do like you. I really do care about you. But when we met and at that campfire and the hayride and all that stuff, I didn't want to tell you I was in eighth grade because you seemed like you liked me too. And I just thought that might be a deal breaker. It would have been a deal breaker. Should have told me. And so we all have this conversation. We head out in the parking lot. We're heading to the car. I'm walking them to their car that Kendra was going to, that she wasn't driving. And we get to the car. I can't remember who was driving them, but they were going to get in the back seat. And I just remember I'm trying to be cordial. She's a nice person. She's just a liar. And so I'm trying to be nice. And so I'm like, okay. And I remember one of the last things I said was, I just can't believe that you're in eighth grade. And when I said that, her friend snapped her neck around and looked at me, and her eyes bulged out of her head. And she raised her hand, and Kendra suddenly had a look of panic come over her. And she threw her hand over her friend's mouth and dragged her into the car with her friend. And I was like, I'm out of here. There's a kidnapping going on now. I'm just leaving. I start walking away, and right before the door closes, the girl breaks away from Kendra's clamp. And she lets go, and the girl off in the distance says, she's not in eighth grade, she's in seventh. She was held back. I got in my car so fast. I was like, I have to get out of this parking lot before she ends up in elementary school. Just run. So I got and I left. And I'm telling you, if you come across my family, you meet my family every once in a while, my mom might come or whatever. You're going to be like, give us some dirt on Dan. Give us some dirt on... This is the dirt. It doesn't get any worse than this. When I was a junior in high school, for a few months, I dated a seventh grader. Come at me now, Papa Doc. Come at me. That's all your ammo. All right, so we've been in this relationship series that clearly I need some advice on relationships. And we're in the fourth and final week of a series called Great Expectations. And basically in this series, I'll break down and give you a recap in case you haven't been here. First week, we talked about how in any relationship, people bring a box, we call it, of their hopes, dreams, and desires. And they bring it into the relationship. Like, this is what I thought it would be. This is what I picture it being. And so they bring it in. But to the other person in the relationship, that box feels an awful lot like expectations. It just feels dense, feels heavy, like, whoo, it's a lot to live up to. There's almost no getting around it. But we learned basically that for couples who are good, strong couples in a relationship and that kind of go the distance, that there's this feeling, man, I owe him or her everything, but on the flip side, they don't owe me anything. I feel like I owe them everything, but they don't owe me anything. Okay, and so it doesn't make any sense, but that's what we have to do. Second week, we talked about how relationships are kind of a race to the back of the line. That in a Christian marriage, there's basically a submission competition. It's mutual submission. And it's kind of the idea of each person insists that the other person goes first. Each person insists that the other person is more important than them. And then in the third week, last week, Curtis on our preaching team, he said if you want wealth in your relationships, you got to put in the hard work. And he shared with us an acrostic, ANDOM, which means as much as it depends on me, I'm going to make my marriage awesome. And so if you've missed any of those previous messages, we've got a playlist of those, of the video sermons up on our YouTube page now under a Great Expectations series playlist. And so this week we're going to talk about a choice. And it's a choice that every person in a couple has to make. And sometimes you make this choice daily. Sometimes it's just occasionally when it pops up. But it's a choice that you have to make. And sometimes it's going to feel, when we talk about this choice, more like a response, more like a reaction. But I'm telling you that this is a choice. And you get to make it, and you do make it every time that this choice arises. So what is this choice? Well, it's found in a letter by someone we call the Apostle Paul. It was written to Christians sometime in the first century, and it's included in our Bibles. But these Christians were in the city of Corinth, which is a Greek city, and that's kind of important. So he wrote this letter primarily to Gentiles, non-Jewish people, in this case Greek people, who are new Christians. So if you're someone who's like, I just don't fully understand or have Christianity down pat, I don't fully grasp it, this letter was written to people like you. It was written to people who were brand new Christians, and there was a lot of it that they still didn't get. So they're trying to comprehend this whole Christian thing. And their idea is like, man, so there's only one God, but we've been serving lots of gods, these Greek gods or Roman gods, and we used to go to the temple. That's what religion was to us. But now Paul, in his writing, is explaining to them, not only is there just one God, but he is very different from all these man-made gods that you have been worshiping. I mean, basically, in pagan religions, the gods didn't care about people. Okay, the Greek gods are an example of that. They didn't care about people. And so I don't know how many of you any of you by round of applause ever taken some Greek mythology in any way in school. Okay, read some Greek mythology. Okay, two of my three kids right now are in middle school, like Kendra was. And my daughter, who's in 7th grade, is taking some Greek mythology, and she every once in a while will come home and tell me a little bit about a story of somebody, Prometheus or somebody like that. And so if you've studied Greek mythology or read some, like the other gods, Greek gods, man, they toyed with people. They manipulated people. In fact, sometimes they even physically mated with people. They're gods that are very much created in our own image. Like, here's what we would be like if we were gods. So here you go. And so here's the thing with that is in pagan religions, there was no morality. There was no ethics, okay? Basically, the gods didn't care about how we treated one another. They didn't care about that at all. So it didn't please them or anger them how you treated the person next to you. What kept the gods happy was what you did for the gods. Okay, you would give them sacrifices. You would sacrifice animals. In some cultures, you would sacrifice a child. Okay, you would sacrifice things to them, and the whole point was, I want to make sacrifices to the gods so that our crops will grow, so that our remaining children will grow up and be healthy, or so that we'll win battles. So the Apostle Paul comes along and he says, this God is completely different. Like, this God actually cares about his creation. He cares about people. And in order to please this God, you actually treat people the way that God has treated us, so you love the people around you. It does matter how you treat people. And so Paul teaches them a concept that Jesus originally taught his disciples. Jesus said to his disciples, hey, I want you to treat others the way that I, Jesus, have treated you. And so Paul shares this really with these Corinthians. He talks about kind of like the difference between vertical religion, which is basically, I'm going to try to treat God the way he wants to be treated. Here you go, God, here are things for you. I hope you're happy. I hope you give me stuff in return. Or horizontal religion, which is, I'm going to treat you the way that God has treated me. Okay? And that has a lot to do with pleasing God by treating others well, because they're also God's creation. So that brings us to a very popular section of Paul's letter to the Corinthians, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, page 932. Some of you may have heard this at a wedding ceremony. Some of you may have had it read at your own wedding ceremonies. But this is often called the love chapter. But the truth is, it isn't really super romantic. You're not going to hear this and reach over and grab the hand of the person next to you during it, because it's very earthy, gritty stuff. This is what love truly is, and it's really gritty. And so I'm going to go through and read this parts of this chapter here, and there's one line in this chapter that to me just doesn't make sense, just to be honest. It just doesn't make sense. And there's in that line, there's the secret to this choice that I think that we all need to make in our relationships with anyone, romantic or not, that we're in relationship with. So I'm going to walk you through this passage. We're going to get to that one line that doesn't make any sense, and we're going to camp out there for just a few minutes. So here's what Paul says at the beginning of the chapter, verse 1. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but I do not have love, then I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. So basically, these Greek people in Corinth, they used to have, as part of their religious experiences in their former religion, ecstatic utterances, where they would either speak other languages or think that they were speaking other languages. And what they were literally trying to do was to speak the languages of the gods or of the angels. And so what Paul has just finished telling them in previous chapters is, hey, if you want some version of that to be a part of your religious experience, that's fine, okay? But don't get it in your head that if you do tap into the language of angels, if you do that, but you don't have love, then you're just making a lot of noise, okay? So that's what he wants to share. Now, this would be a great reminder for me and you, is to understand that you should never judge someone like me, who's a speaker or a teacher or a preacher, really on my speaking skills or my knowledge of the Bible. Okay, that's not the standard according to Jesus. That's not what you judge the person on. So if you really want to know what type of Christian I am, if you really know how great of a person I am in Jesus' eyes, you ask my wife. You ask my children. You ask my closest friends. Okay? So there's a difference there because love is always the bottom line with Jesus. So because a talent or an ability is not necessarily a manifestation of spirituality or great faith. Love is always the bottom line. Doesn't matter how skilled you are talking, how beautifully you sing, love is always the bottom line, or you're just making noise. Paul goes on, he says this, if I have the gift of prophecy or speaking God's truth, and I can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, I'm the smartest person in the room. And if I have a faith that can move mountains but do not have love, I'm nothing. Paul literally is saying in the original Greek text here, I'm a nobody. If I don't have love, I'm a nobody. Okay, so again, knowledge is not what makes you deep. That's what he's saying right here. Love is the measure. He goes on to say, if I give all my possessions to the poor and give over my body to hardships that I may boast, but I do not have love, I gain nothing. Notice he keeps talking about having love. If I were to survey this crowd and people out in our community and say, do you have love? Most people are like, yes, Dan, I have love. I have love. Because it sounds like something you feel. It's like this internal thing. Oh, yes, I have love. I have love. Because I feel for those children. I feel for that couple that's going through a tough time. I feel for this. And you feel like it's something very internal to have love. But what Paul is making clear in this chapter is this is not an internal thing. It's not a vertical thing. That this is a very practical, horizontal thing. Paul's saying, I'm talking about the stuff that you do. And that leads to this next section, which is the most popular part that may be in wedding ceremonies. Paul says, here's what I'm talking about. Love is patient. Love is kind. Okay, so basically this is kind of the get to the back of the line kind of stuff. I'm going to put somebody else before me. I'm going to race to the back of the line. I love substituting the word to describe it, defer. Like, love defers. Love says, I'm going to defer to you. I'm going to let you go first. He goes on, he says, love does not envy. So love's not jealous, okay? Love's not upset that you're more talented than me, that you could cover an Elvis song and I can't. You know, love's not, like, hey, you get more attention to me and that makes me mad. You know, when you're the life of the party or when you get the laughs at the joke. Love does not envy. Love, he also says, does not boast. It is not proud, okay? So, love, again, it doesn't try to one-up one another, okay? Love says, I'm going to let you shine. I'm going to let you be the center of attention, and I'm not going to rob you of that, okay? Also says, love does not dishonor others. Okay, so if it's dishonoring to you, if I love you, if this is dishonoring to you, I don't need a Bible verse to tell me not to do it. I'm not going to do it. It's out of bounds for me because it dishonors you. And love wouldn't do that. Love is not self-seeking. So this, again, is the get to the back of the line thing. It's dealing out of the other person's box. Oh, these are your hopes, dreams, and desires. Then I want to deal out of your box because I'm not self-seeking. And then love also is not easily angered. Love doesn't have a temper. Love does not abuse. Okay? And so these are just the definitions as he gets gritty about what love is. And then this is a huge one. It keeps no record of wrongs. All right, keeps no record. Now, wouldn't that be great to be in a relationship with someone who kept no record of wrongs? They don't keep bringing up the past or past trespasses or mistakes. And the next one's really tricky. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. That's almost poetic. It's beautiful. And then Paul here in this next line, he just kind of goes for it, okay? So he just like leans into this and he gives this rapid fire list of what love is. He says this: love always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Now, one of these is one that to me does not make any sense. Mainly because it seems like it's more dependent on the lovee than the lover, okay? It really seems like, man, are you sure about this? And it's this one. Love always trusts. What? That seems a little naive. Love always? Love always trusts? Like, man, I don't know. If you've been in a relationship with Kendra Weir, love always trusts? Because you're going to find yourself sometimes being, what? That's what's going to happen. Love always trusts. I mean, the other one's kind of like, okay, love always protects a person. Like, even if they're in the wrong, I want to protect them. Love always hopes. I think things are going to get better. I love just the idea that love is always trending positive. You know, like, man, there's hope. You know, love always perseveres. There's going to be obstacles in any relationship, friendship or romantic. There's going to be obstacles, but I'm going to push through those obstacles and struggles always. But always trust, that's insane. That's absolutely insane. And literally the Greek text used by Paul, written by Paul here, always trust means always believes or believes everything. Love always trusts. So, and this is the deal. This, what we've landed on here, is a keystone habit of couples who go the distance and are happy together. This is a keystone habit. So let me illustrate it this way, okay? In every relationship, there is something that happens where there is an expectation, okay? There's an expectation in my sweet pink letters, right? Okay? There's an expectation where he or she says, hey, I'll be there at 6 o'clock. Hey, I'm going to be there at this time and I'll pick you up. I'm going to go pick the kids up at a certain time. When you get home, I'm going to have dinner ready for the both of us. Hey, I'm going to make sure that birthday card is in the mail. I'm going to make sure this package is mailed. There's this expectation of what he or she said they do or what they led us to believe that they would do. But then often there is a gap between expectation and experience, what really happens, right? And so there's often a gap in between those two things. And every time we get to make a choice about what we put right here in this gap. We get to make a choice of what will be placed in this gap. Now, essentially, you have two choices. You can either choose, number one, to believe the best, okay? I don't know why he was late. I don't know why she didn't mail that card. I don't know why that happened, but I'm sure there's a good reason. Okay, in the gap, I put believe this. I'm sure when all the information comes in, when we get a chance to get together and talk about this, there'll be some information I didn't know, and it will make sense to me why there was a gap between expectation and experience. The other choice that you have is to assume the worst. She did it again. He did it again. Like, I've almost come to expect it. Like this, it just happened again. And I could almost plan it. It's like clockwork that this is what she's going to do. This is what he's going to do. And we choose to assume the worst. And we make the choice. It's not just a reaction to place that in the gap and assume the worst. And happily married couples choose to believe the best. And this is what they put in this gap. They do what Paul says. Love always trusts. They believe all things. That's what it means. So whenever we experience a gap between what we expect and what we experience, we choose to trust or to believe the best. That's what happy couples do. And it's a keystone habit for happily married couples. And that's what Paul wrote about 2,000 years ago, that love always trusts. Now, back in 2005, there was an author, speaker, thinker named Marcus Buckingham. By the way, when I die and move along, I would like for you guys not just to remember me as a preacher or a rapper. I want you to remember me also as a thinker, like this guy, okay? He was an author, he was a speaker, and a thinker, okay? So I can tell by your non-response, you already think of me that way. So I appreciate that. Thank you. So Dan Smith, preacher, rapper, man, he's a thinker, okay? Because most times you look at me and be like, that dude's not a thinker, you know. Okay, so this guy, Marcus Buckingham, he wrote a book that was called The One Thing That You Need to Know. And the book is about business management, leadership, and making progress. And in this book about organizational skills and leadership and management, Buckingham uses something to kind of illustrate his point in the book, but it actually kind of serves our purpose this morning. And so this book cites a 20-year study. So this isn't a short study. A 20-year study of couples who were happily married in the U.S. and Canada and Europe, all over the place. And so they weren't just couples that they studied. They weren't just couples who are grunting it out, like, we're just staying together for the kids. We can't afford to get a divorce, or we would. It isn't those kind of couples. These are couples who have been together for a certain amount of time, a long time. I don't know if it's like 30 years or whatever, but it was a long time that they've been together, and they still enjoy one another's company, okay? They're sitting there with their dentures out, just looking into each other's eyes, spooning grapefruit, watching Golden Girls together, watching Matlock, okay? They're just chilling together, but that's the deal with these couples. It's not people who are together a short time and we're happy. Okay, this isn't, it just can't be summertime. It isn't that. It's years and years of happiness and goodness. And so they look at these guys and they do a study to ask them a bunch of questions. And they want to find out what's the common denominator among these couples. Wouldn't that be great to know? Here, all these people have been together forever and they love each other. Like, what's the common denominator between these couples? So the researchers go in and they have some assumptions. One of the things they assumed that they would find in the study is that over time, both spouses just lowered their great expectations of one another and just said, okay, he's not as great as I thought she was. She's not as great as I thought she was. And so I'm going to lower my expectations because that's the only way for us to survive together is if I lower them and have a more realistic view of this idiot who's next to me. And consequently, we'll be able to stay together. But their study showed the exact opposite. So in the study, basically here's what happened. Both spouses had to look at certain characteristics, one of the things they had to do, and they had to rate themselves on this characteristic, say honesty, okay? They had to rate themselves on this characteristic. Then they also had to rate their spouse, okay? And what happened over and over in the study is that people over and over rated their spouse much higher than their spouses rated themselves. And what they said about the study was they called it, quote, that each spouse had a, quote, unrealistically positive view of the other person. Like they just didn't kind of see some of their deficiencies that other people might see. In fact, they said at the end, one of the summations of the study said, love is actually blind, okay? Like they didn't see the flaws like they should in some ways. And the conclusion basically said that this positive view they had toward the other person created what they called an upward spiral of love. Here's how it works. They have this illusion, okay? Man, she's just the best. Oh, he is just the best. And they have this illusion. Oh, man, just the absolute best, like the greatest. And that illusion created conviction or faith in the other person. And it's like they believed this illusion for so long that they actually came to have faith in that person. Like, I can count on my spouse. I can count on him. I can count on her. And that conviction led to a sense of security. Because he's the greatest, because she's the greatest, I feel secure in this relationship. And that security led to high levels of trust. Well, high levels of trust always lead to intimacy. What's intimacy? Intimacy is like intimacy. It's vulnerability. It's transparency. Like, I don't have to hold anything back with you. I trust you fully, so why would I hold anything back from you? It's a fearless reveal. And so I trust all of me to you, and I don't have to hold anything back. And that intimacy fostered love. And that love reinforced the illusion. Oh, he's just the best. She's just the best. And that led to more conviction, more security, more trust, more intimacy and love. It's a spiral, upward spiral of love. And at the end of the study, here's their recommendation. This is so powerful. It says, in a relationship, find the most generous explanation for the other's behavior and then believe it. Like when there's a gap between what you expect and the actual thing that you experience, and you make the choice, you get to choose what do you put in this gap, you imagine the most gracious scenario that you could possibly imagine. You assume the best. You give the benefit of the doubt to your spouse, and you believe all things. Love always trusts, and you just choose to believe. Now, I don't want you to miss this point, is that you, when you have this gap, every single time, you get to make the choice of what do you put in this gap. Every single time. Will you believe the best, or will you assume the worst? That's the choice that you get to make. Now, I know there are obstacles with this. There are obstacles, right? There are definitely obstacles with this, okay? The first obstacle is what we experience. You're like, dang, he just keeps doing it. She just keeps doing it. This is what we experience. Like, I know, totally. I get it. That is an obstacle, right? Okay, but what I want you to understand this is another one of the obstacles is who we are, okay? And these kind of merge together in some ways. The other obstacle is who we are. So let's be honest, we don't go into a relationship as just a clean, empty slate, right? We bring baggage, we bring past, we bring our relationship and our memories of Kendra Weir with us. We bring all this stuff with us because we've been burned, okay? There are things, Kendra Weir's kind of a funny story about being burned. It's like, no harm done. Dated a hot girl, she was like 5 years old, it turns out, okay? Okay, no problem. But for you, some of you have really been burned. Like some of you have been hurt badly in ways that it pains me to hear your story, because it's just so like, wow, were you betrayed? And so we bring this stuff and our history into this relationship, and some people, because of those things, have a harder time trusting others than some do. And so that's how it works, and because of that, there are certain behaviors that trigger certain responses in some of us. And we can't help triggers, but here's the thing, and I can't say it enough, but every single time, we still get to make the choice. Like, no matter how much you've been burnt, no matter what's going on in your past, no matter how bad or sordid it is, when there's a gap between what you expect and what you experience, you still get to make the choice every single time. What do you put in the gap? Now, let me dig a little bit, because once there was a great theologian who said something awesome. This great theologian's name was Elvis. And he said, we can't go on together with suspicious minds, okay? This is so true, because when it comes to low trust in a relationship, when it comes to stuff like that, suspicion is a self-fulfilling prophecy. It is, I promise you. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you assume the worst over and over and over again, eventually, I promise you, you will find something to be suspicious about. Okay? It works this way. If you're in a relationship with a low trust person, then you are always on pins and needles. I mean, they're always looking for you to do something wrong, and because of that, you're always kind of off balance, and you will be so careful, so cautious, so controlled in your behavior and in your words that you will appear as if you are up to something. That's how it works. And so if you are a low trust person and you're suspicious all the time, what you might do is accidentally create an environment to set the other person up for the very thing that you fear happening. You will set them up for that with your low trust, because suspicion and low trust in a relationship typically are self-fulfilling prophecies, and it sets the stage for the very thing that you fear the most. Proverbs 11:27 in Scripture says, if you search for good, you will find favor, but if you search for evil, it will find you. That's just the case. So this is what I want you to do is, yes, there are things that they do, okay? But I want you to think less about the things that they do, and I want you to also remember part of it is who you are. Like sometimes you have to stop and be like, am I reacting this way? Am I being triggered this way just because I'm a low trust person? So do you believe the best or do you assume the worst? What option do you really have? You know, you can delight in uncovering mistakes. You can thrive on speculation. You can assume the worst. You can embrace doubt. And now we're back. That's what was last week on Lost. Now we're back for this week on Lost. So now imagine you're sitting down with your daughter and she's about to go into her first significant relationship, or she's about to get married. Would you really sit your daughter down and give her the advice, okay, here's what you're going to do. Basically, honey, lay a trap. And he'll step into it eventually, and you'll just be able to be like, aha, I got you. You wouldn't give that advice. Like, you would say no. What you do in relationships are when there's a gap, you have a choice to choose what to put in that gap, and you believe the best. You believe all things. You always trust, because it's a habit of good relationships to believe the best. So here's your homework assignment. We've been given homework assignments every week in this series, and this one, it's especially for coupled people, but I hope if you're a single person or if you're a coupled person, that's the dumbest phrase I've ever used, you're a coupled person. But this applies to all relationships. This applies to your work, you know, people you work with. This applies to friendships. This applies to churches. This applies to all kinds of stuff. But what I want you to do, if you're in a couple, what I want you to simply do this week for homework is just do this for a week. Just do this for a week. If 9 times out of 10, there's no good excuse for that thing he did, I want you to say, I'm going to choose to put this in the gap. I'm going to choose to believe the best. I'm going to choose to believe all things. And you imagine the most gracious, the most generous explanation, and you choose to believe it. Okay, Dan, does this mean that naively we don't have any tough conversations? We don't have any difficult conversations? No, of course it doesn't mean you don't have difficult conversations when you need to have them, or when the same things happen over and over again. Of course you address that. But once you've addressed it and it's over, you get back to work. You don't keep a record of wrong. You say, okay, we got through that. We're moving on. Okay, we're going to move on now, and we're going to get back to this choice of believing the best. So choose to trust, believe the best. It's a choice every single time. And one encouragement I can simply give you, husbands, if you have trouble believing and trusting your wives, here's just one simple thing you can build on. You're probably not going to find out she's in 7th grade. You can build on that, right? You can build on it. That's from me to you. I pass on the savings. Let's pray. God, thank you for all this relationship advice that you give. It's so practical, and it makes such a difference in our lives and us trying to treat people the way that Jesus has treated us. And so, God, thank you for that. God, I pray for, as I have the last couple of weeks, I pray for spouses who have come to church for this relationship series or for this topic today, because what they're trying to say is, I'm making an effort. I know, I usually go to your church by yourself, or I know we haven't gone to church together for a long time, neither of us, or whatever. But God, I just pray that you will intervene as they look to you in their relationship for help, that you would intervene, that you would lend them your power as they ask for it, and you would help to fix some things that are broken. God, I believe that you can do anything that you want to do, and I know that you can save marriages. I know that you can repair damages and hurt and wounds that have been inflicted. And so, God, I pray that you intervene for couples right now who need that in their lives. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.